Hi, everybody. I'm here today with my friend Thomas. I just called you Tom, and I've never done that in my life.
People do that randomly. Yeah.
That's super weird. I've never done that. Well, anyway, I'm here with my friend Thomas, who I met in 2014 for the first time in the flesh. But we were friends before that online, where he tried to convince me to play Words with Friends, and I suck at that game, but I tried. Anyway, so we met at PDTR, which is a proprioceptive deep tendon reflex, which is a neurological technique. It's very complex, and he really helped me understand it, and many things, actually. So I feel really honored to be able to interview you, to chat with you today. It's been a long time
Glad
since
to be here.
Yeah, and we have the time. So
I saw everyone else getting interviewed and I was jealous.
Yeah. I know. I still haven't, there's so many people I could interview, and it's like all booked up through June. So I'm glad.
Wow.
I'm glad that we got you in sooner than that. So I'm curious if you could share with people watching, how you became this extraordinary manual therapist and teacher that you are today. It's a long story.
That's that journey for me started when I got out of the military.
Mm-hmm.
For those who don't know, I was in the Marine Corps for several years, and when I got out, I started off actually as a fitness trainer, as a personal trainer in my younger, thinner days. And for me, it was just a job. It wasn't a career interest for me at the time. I was looking to go into law enforcement. So I was going to be, I forget which agency I had plans on at the time. I might have still been looking into doing the FBI at the time. That's something I was pursuing. Obviously, I changed my mind on that. Started doing the personal training, and there was a friend of mine who worked there who also did chair massages. And I just remember thinking what a cool skill that was to have. Again, no inclination whatsoever towards it doing it professionally, but I thought it'd be a really cool thing to do.
Yeah.
And actually, now that I think about it, I was actually pursuing being a paramedic firefighter at the time, because I was actually registered for the academy at the time. I already done all my EMT stuff and all my firefighting courses. And I remember, because when I went online to look up massage schools, the course dates conflicted with my academy. So I actually canceled my academy.
Oh, wow.
So that I never wanted to be impulsive.
Yeah.
So I just canceled the academy and went to massage school because I thought it would be fun and I wanted to learn how to do it. Well, after doing that kind of on the side for about a year, one of my clients decided she wanted to go to massage school. And she went to a much better massage school than I did, much more comprehensive program. And it was a school where they taught a technique called neuromuscular reprogramming. The founder of the school had created this method. It's what later got morphed into NKT, a neurokinetic therapy. So she saw a demonstration of the neuromuscular reprogramming there. Didn't think it was up her alley, but thought I would love it from what she knew of me. So she brought me some information on it, and I signed up the same day.
Yeah. And
after I went to the first, at the time that was the training was spread out over 3 months. It was like 4 months. It was 4-day weekends.
Wow, really?
For their basic program. They had an advanced program also, but their basic program was 4-day weekends. That was their intensive. And after the first 4-day module, I stopped doing all massage and started just doing that.
Okay. Wow. Yeah.
It's still doing the training, but then over the next 11 years or so, I continued both doing the training and body work. And over time, I kind of transitioned from one to the other until I was barely training at all. And then I eventually just scrapped that all together maybe 6-7 years ago, something like that. And
oh, not
I've
even
only
that
been
long
doing
ago.
body work.
Wow. So only around the time that I met you, you were leaving
Basically phasing
formally.
out,
Yeah.
phasing out gym work.
I guess I didn't even know that. I thought that was way in your past by the time I met you.
Mentally and emotionally, it was.
Yeah.
I was still doing it, but it was still a job that paid bills and offered me
Yeah.
flexibility to pursue my other interests.
Yeah. What did you like about training?
What I liked about training was working with bodies.
Yeah.
Working with the anatomy, the kinesiology, problem solving. I pretty quickly became kind of the rehab guy at the gym, where they would send everyone with injuries or those in kind of a post rehabilitative arena. So I got to spend a lot of time kind of using my brain to kind of work around different difficulties and challenges and things like that. And I really liked that element.
Yep.
But that was only the kind of rehab element of the training, was the corrective exercise and whatnot, was really only about 10% of the job, but it was the 10% that I lived for. So, doing what I do now allows me to do that 10% 100% of the time.
Yeah.
Plus being my own boss and all those other things that come along with it. So
right.
It was definitely the right path for me.
Did you have any angst when you were done training? Like any identity?
No, I had a lot of resistance over the years to being 100% self-employed.
Yeah.
I always thought I would have a job, and it was almost made sense for me just to make less, but have it be reliable and consistent.
Yeah. And
to have a W-2 and the whole bit. And I held on to that for a long time. So even though I knew the work I was doing, the work I do now, even though I knew that was my passion, and I definitely never wanted to stop doing it, and I knew I had an aptitude for it, and I had a gift for it, and the whole bit, I never thought I was going to do only that, because that was scary. So I was always pursuing other jobs. So like in 2005, I joined the California Highway Patrol. I got hired by them. But like anything, I'd get 90% of the way through something and then feel drawn away from it. So then I left the California Highway Patrol, and then I spent years knocking out coursework and going to nursing school. And same thing, got drawn away from it, back into the body work. So eventually, once I kind of dropped the nursing program, I just kind of gave up on finding a job and realized that I could make my passion my career. And I think I just finally had overcome like the last mental and emotional hurdle to being okay with that. And then I never really looked back. I felt okay with it. And I was already, doing really well at it, and I was pretty successful at it. So it wasn't even really a financial consideration of needing these jobs. And my business had grown year over year for the however many years I'd been doing it, even through economic crashes and the whole bit. So I had no reason to believe it was just going to suddenly tank.
Right.
So I just kind of, the writing was on the wall, and I eventually just went with it. And I don't regret it.
I think a lot of people struggle making that transition. And even just figuring out what to charge. Like, what do I charge for this work that I'm doing on my own? And it's really difficult.
I know it's not the way any sort of business coach would ever recommend. Now, it's probably not what I would do now, but at the time, I was basically looking at what people were charging who I thought were at kind of a commensurate skill level to me.
Yeah.
And offering a comparable product. And at the time, one of my early mentors was David Weinstock, who you know. Yep. And so I'd kind of see what he was charging and just make sure I never exceeded that. Because I didn't feel justified in charging as much or more than my teacher.
Right.
So obviously that's a silly way to gauge your value, but and I wouldn't do it now, but that's how I started it. So I was, charging $60 an hour for a massage for the year or so I was doing that. And then as soon as I took up the NMR, I just immediately bumped it to 80.
Yep.
And then I just kind of went up steadily from there over the years.
Right.
And I haven't done a rate increase in a few years, and technically I guess I'm due, but I'm in no hurry.
Yeah. Huh. I'm so phlegmy right now. Excuse me. So how would you, if you were a brand new massage therapist or whatever, some kind of new therapist, how would you go about like figuring out what to charge? Since you're so experienced in the field, what do you think works?
I think you should figure out what you need to make and what you want to make, and then make yourself worth that.
Nice. Yeah.
So if you feel you want to make, I don't know, $120 an hour or whatever the number is that you come up with based on how much you want to work, how much you want to make, just do the math. Okay, it needs to be 120 an hour. What can I do to be worth 120 an hour? And then do that.
Yeah.
And focus not just on technical skill, but also on service and just being present for people and really, increasing what you bring to the table for them, and not worrying about what other people are doing and what other people are charging.
Right. What are some of the extras that you provide people, or that ways that, like, innovative ways that you've learned to be of service beyond the, classwork stuff?
Well, part of it comes from my background as a trainer. As a massage therapist, like, we don't deal with exercises. We don't deal with corrective exercises. It's not in our scope. As a trainer, it is. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I did corrective exercise as a profession for more than a decade. Mm-hmm. So I'm able to offer a lot of insight into people's training regimens, into specific exercises to help reinforce corrections I've made, to work around various issues. So I can kind of bring in kind of the best of both worlds, from the fitness side and the body work side. Mm. I also make myself really available, which I know there are counter arguments to that, but I'm available to people pretty much 24/7 in terms of contact, emails, texts, whatever. Yep. I mean, I have fixed working hours, but I'll answer people's questions. I'll send them links to YouTube videos and whatever they need. And people don't really abuse that. So it's never been, I've never had like a strong boundary issue there, but letting people know that I care, and I don't only care until 5 p.m.
Right. Yeah. I will say, in support of that, you make yourself available to a lot of people, not just people who are your clients, but a lot of people throughout the years that I've known you, for all kinds of questions and support and helping with resources and encouraging.
I definitely put myself out there, and I put a lot of time and energy, as anyone in like the NKT community knows. I put a lot of time and energy into helping people there.
Yeah.
And have for many, many years.
Long time. How many years?
I don't know. Long before NKT was at NKT. As soon as I found it was called NKT, I joined the NKT forum and became involved in that. And not too long after, started doing the pro tips of the day. And I've been doing those steadily for 5-6 years, whatever it's been.
Oh God. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been at least since 2013, because that's when I joined.
Yeah, I put out 2 a week every week. So.
Wow. Yeah, and that's so interesting. I remember those. That's funny. I can remember.
I did the tutorials and study groups and all that stuff.
I can remember being a neophyte in that group, like, oh my God, this is amazing, mind-blowing information. Yeah, I loved it.
Now, with one's first foray into kind of that type of body work, if your mind isn't blown, it's usually because you didn't get it.
Right. Yeah.
Because if you get it, you understand really the possibilities of it, and what could theoretically be done with it, were you to learn it well, and it can be very overwhelming.
Yeah.
So the people who come out of those programs, either NKT, PDTR, whatever, if they come out thinking, oh yeah, I'm good with that, they did not get it.
Right. I've not run into anyone like that, actually.
I've met some. less so with PDTR because you can only fake it so much
Yeah.
with something that's so technical and kind of Byzantine in its complexity.
Yeah.
But with NKT, you have plenty of people who seem very, very confident, but it is not warranted.
Confident. Yeah. I will agree. I have had more, or people with cynicism within NKT, but PDTR, there's not a lot of, I don't know. It's like you're so busy trying to wrap your brain around what just happened.
Yeah.
Or even
a
what
wee bit complicated.
Dr. Palomar even said, like, well, what did he say? Yeah. That was the last class that I took in which I took notes like that. I just gave up on notes after that class.
I think I still have a copy of your notes somewhere.
I'm sure.
You had sent me your notes. I think somewhere on my Dropbox I have some of your module notes.
Yeah, and then I'm forgetting his name, but one guy made a clickable resource. Remember that one? He like combined his notes and my notes together and made like a
I don't remember.
Organized. I'll find it and I'll send it to you. You'll be excited. Not that you need it, but
yes.
Yeah.
I think I'm good on that content.
Yeah, I think you've mastered it. So what are you up to now? Because so you did NMR for a long time and then like multiple other courses and things.
I did NMR pretty much exclusively for something like 8 years.
Yeah.
I didn't really learn any other stuff. I mean, I took a few small courses here and there, but that was 95% of my work was the NMR, NKT, whatever you want to call it based on the time frame. But then the next big thing I introduced was PDTR, which I started doing in 2011. And when I first started that, I mean, taking the course, it was a bit of a nightmare at the time, not just because of the material, but because of how it's taught and presented and everything. It was 100 times worse when I took it. At the time, it was 8 modules of 2 days each.
Yeah.
So it was 8 weekends.
Yeah.
A month apart. And it was just so disorganized and chaotic. Demonstrations that just took entirely too long and made no sense. And I just remember one student literally got up, left, went grocery shopping, got some lunch, came back, asked if he had missed anything, and we honestly had to say no. He was still in the same demonstration that had been going on when he left to do his entire grocery shopping for the week. I mean, it was a nightmare, and I seemed to be the only person asking tons of questions and taking notes, and everyone else, I'm like, wow, I'm literally the only person in this room who doesn't get this. And that was a major blow to my ego at the time. And then when the course was done, everyone was approaching me for a copy of my notes.
Yeah.
And to explain things to them. Yeah. And what I realized that I was actually the only person in the room who understood it enough to know what to ask.
Right.
And I spent the whole time thinking, geez, I'm a moron. I'm the only person not getting this. And I was the only person with any clue what was going on.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of eye-opening for me and gave me some insight into how people behave in those classroom environments. And I've seen that a lot more because usually I'm the one pestering instructors with questions all the time. Because I'm catching things that don't make sense, but you have to understand things to a certain degree to even realize they don't make sense.
Totally.
And there are inconsistencies and things like that. So I did NMR, or excuse me, PDTR for, I don't know, a number of years. I more or less stopped using it a couple of years ago when I started really developing my own work, which I'm sure we'll get into later. But I taught it for a couple of years also. I taught my own PDTR courses for a while. Stopped doing that. For a long time, I was teaching both NMR, or, NKT and PDTR.
Yeah.
Which, for those of you who are in either of those communities, you'll know that the two people at the top, at the head of those communities do not like each other at all. And so it was kind of a little tightrope act. I was working by being highly placed in both organizations, and I knew the day would finally come where one or both would give me an ultimatum and tell me I had to basically pick a team. And me being me, I made up my mind whoever told me to pick a team would be the one I didn't pick.
I love
that. Because how dare you? So ultimately, it was Dr. Palomar from PDTR who asked me to
pick a team.
He said, I want you to teach for me, but you have to stop teaching for him to do it.
Yeah.
And that was that.
Yep. That's okay.
It was okay. I mean, the writing was on the wall anyways, that I was moving away from the method.
Yep.
So it didn't really make any sense. Plus, just purely from a financial standpoint, there were more teaching gigs to be had in NKT, and I had my own course put together, the integrated muscle testing and palpation course that I teach through them.
Yeah.
So it just made more sense to align with them anyways. Plus, they weren't the ones who were putting pressure on me.
Right.
So.
Yeah, you're right, and it has a more.
And I don't regret my decision.
Yeah, I don't blame you. Yeah.
Basically, I don't regret any of the decisions I've made since I've been in this industry, because they've all led me to where I am. And they've proven to be correct in the long run.
So where are you now? What are you doing now?
Well, I do basically two things now. I do my own method, and I do active release, ART. Okay. Those are the two big things I do. So active release for dealing with adhesion, for structural problems.
Yep.
And then my own method for dealing with everything else. So literally everything else falls under the purview of my own system, which doesn't have a name yet. So I don't have a clever name, I can tell you. Because I'm sure once it comes time to trademark and develop the website and start throwing together the seminars and everything, I'll have to pick an actual name for it and market it and everything. Right now, it's just a system without a name.
Yeah. Does it involve muscle testing?
It involves whatever you want. Oh. So really, it's a basic framework of a system that you can insert whatever you know into. Okay. If you know muscle testing, you can use muscle testing. If you know release work, you can bring release work into it. The basic premise of the system, we all know that as practitioners, we aren't doing the healing. We're basically creating space for people to do their own healing and removing obstacles to that healing. Yeah. And it's my belief that the chief way of overcoming those obstacles is bringing the body's awareness to the nature of those obstacles, so it can help kind of disentangle whatever is going on, whatever's preventing the steady march of the healing process from continuing. If we remove those obstacles, you just naturally move in the direction of healing. And so I have kind of a deductive, intuitive process that I follow for determining how I need to help bring awareness to whatever that particular problem is, whether it's through thinking a thought, performing a muscle challenge, some sort of manual stimulus, me saying something, putting them in a position. It can be any number of different, some sort of energetic stimulus, whatever it takes to bring awareness to what needs clearing.
Got it.
And then I use different energetic points to help facilitate the clearing once we've kind of locked down what the thing is that needs clearing, what aspect of the problem could use some assistance.
Yeah.
So there's kind of a questioning process that I go through. And again, you can bring muscle tests to it. Part of that process is determining, is this something that requires like release work or manipulation or whatever? So it's all factored in. So I'm often pivoting back and forth between, energetic corrections, structural releases, exercises, whatever. So it kind of encompasses everything. It's just kind of a system for determining what you need to do, where and when, to work the problem as it exists.
Is it going to be something that's good for new therapists to go to, or would it be more beneficial when they have some tools?
Ultimately, it'll work for anyone. It'll work for a lay person, but it's one of those things, the more you bring to the table, the more powerful you can make it.
Got it.
So the framework is the same, regardless of what your skill set is. It's just that depending on what people bring to the table, I can show them how to integrate that in. To the, you already know muscle testing. Here's how you can use that. And here's where that would fit in.
Okay.
If you don't have muscle testing, you don't have to have muscle testing. And there's basically anytime you're working with someone on the table or however you're working with them, there's an energetic connection with that person, and you basically come to an agreement with them, laying down the ground rules of what's going to happen and how it's going to be allowed to happen.
Okay.
So there are certain stipulations that are made energetically when I'm working with someone. One is that anything that their body shows me is something that's safe to be addressed.
Okay.
So I don't need to worry about tiptoeing through a minefield.
Permissions. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're only going to show me stuff that is okay to be worked on right now.
Sure.
You're going to show me things in the order you want them worked on.
Great.
And that you're not going to show me something that I don't have the ability to address with my current skill set.
Okay.
So if what you need is ART and I don't know ART, you're going to show me what I can help you with.
Gotcha.
Okay. And as long as you have a very clear, focused intention with your working with someone, this kind of silent, tacit agreement works very well.
Yep.
So I don't have problems with abreactions and corrections backfiring and things like that, because again, the agreement is you're only going to show me what's safe to be addressed.
Mm-hmm. What is an abreaction for you? What would you call that?
Someone having a really strong kind of, integration process or healing crisis afterward.
Yeah.
I mean, and we're not talking like being sore for a day or two after or something, but it's something strong, like a really negative reaction where they don't come out the other side better than before.
Right. Okay.
And it takes more than a couple days.
Yep.
So, and I can again set the intention. I can lay the ground rules that I want no risk of adverse reaction.
Mm-hmm.
No strong responses. I want it to be gentle and easy. And sometimes I do that depending on who I'm working with and what we're working on.
Mm-hmm.
Or I can, or the ground rules I set can be more aggressive, where we're willing to have a few bumps in the road if it means faster progress.
How do you know? Is it intuitive? Or do people actually say, I'm okay
the
with...
intuition it is a muscle you can train.
Yeah.
It is absolutely a developable skill. And that will be a big part of the course that I ultimately teach, is how to use the intuition, how to communicate with your intuition, not just waiting for a feeling, but you can almost access the intuition like a computer terminal.
Yeah.
And just submit your query and get the information you want. And learning how to develop that and how to eventually learn to trust it.
That's great. People need.
Because initially I trusted it as far as I could throw it.
Yeah.
Because the fact is, if you ask a question, you're going to get an answer whether it's right or not. Because you asked the question. So
right.
You're going to get an answer. So how do you learn to trust it? So I was always comparing it to things that were more objective. So things that were observable, things that were testable. And I'd always try to reconcile the answers I was getting with what I was seeing, with what I was seeing and what was coming out with, like muscle tests, for instance. I'm very good at muscle testing. I'm very good at getting clean, reliable responses with muscle testing, which is why I teach it. Right. But something I've found is if what I'm finding through the more objective measures is not aligning with what I'm getting through my intuition, there's a reason for that. And it's either some sort of neurologic disorganization on the part of the person on the table, or it's me.
Okay.
So I have kind of a sequence I run through at the beginning of a session with people relating to chakra balancing and things like that eliminates 99% of problems with that. So almost always, if something comes up where I'm getting a mismatch between my intuition and my observation, it's me. And I have to do those corrections on myself. And then all of a sudden things start matching again. I start finding finding the appropriate parity.
Yeah. Do you ever find that if there's something like that that happens, it's because you and your client have psychics call it a matching picture, a similarity, maybe a shared trauma or a shared fear or something like that?
I have not run into that.
Mm-hmm.
But that's not to say, let me rephrase. I am not aware that I have run into that.
Mm-hmm.
I suppose it's entirely possible that I have. Yeah, but I've honestly never had to go there to resolve what I was attempting to resolve.
Yeah. Okay.
As they say, there are many roads to Rome. There's not only one way of addressing such things.
That's true.
I've never had to address it from that perspective, I'll say.
Right. Yeah, it just makes me curious if two people's energy fields come close together and there's a similar trauma or similar fear or belief, then there would be an impact of some kind. I don't know how that would show up in your system, but
well, part of that would fall into the that tacit agreement that the session was founded on, is that you're only going to show me what is safe for me to work on, not the other guy. Maybe he's allowed to work on this and I'm not. So it could fall under that, where we both have this shared trauma, so I can't really go there. So show me the next thing you want worked on. Show me what else you want worked on. And again, this is all completely subconscious. It's not like the person is verbally telling me. They have no idea what's going on half the time.
Right.
I'm doing my best to kind of explain things as I go, but a lot of it, you're just dealing with subconscious. You're dealing with the energy. You're dealing with kind of non-physical things.
Got it. Okay. Interesting.
So I get a lot into energetic stuff, soul level stuff. It gets pretty esoteric. I mean, I know you're good with esoteric. It gets into previous life stuff, inherited traumas, all sorts of things.
Are you finding and working with cords, energetic cords?
Not in a focused way.
Yeah.
I trained not too long ago in pranic healing, and we talk about energetic cords and whatnot, and a lot of what I was learning there, like, it was clear to me it was effective.
Yeah.
It was clear to me that it worked. I just didn't really believe it worked the way they said it did.
Yeah.
Like the mechanism.
Yeah.
Just because I was seeing so much inconsistency in how things could be accomplished. Like, well, if this is a rule, then how come there are so many exceptions to it? Like, maybe it's not a rule. Like, maybe it's not actually working the way you think it's working. And myself and the person I was taking the course with, we basically came to an understanding that the majority of what we're dealing with was focused intention.
Mm-hmm.
That
absolutely.
What could be accomplished via intention, and what things ended up not really being important or not really being rules that were thought to be rules, because it was really just a way of focusing intention. That you could do something a different way as long as you focus your intention properly, it still works. And I have found with energetic cords, if I focus my intention properly in not forming them or keeping them clear, I just don't have that problem.
Right.
Plus, I naturally have pretty strong boundaries when I work with people. I don't have problems taking on other people's stuff.
Right.
Like, I can connect. I can feel the breeze without getting a shiver. I can feel what's going on in their body without having to take it into me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sometimes I'll explain to clients that people can be highly sensitive, but not empathic. There's sort of a distinction between how much of the energy you'll allow in and whether you'll take it out of the room with you. And
well, my goal, it's been my experience that there's a lot of people, and this is not directed at you, but a lot of people who consider themselves highly empathic also have really terrible boundaries. Like, they don't have good control over the exchange from one person to the next, where instead of a semi-permeable membrane, they're just like an open barn door.
Yeah.
and stuff just goes wherever it wants to go. And they're taking on each other's stuff. They're influencing each other's energy constantly in ways that they are not controlling for with intention. And so I like to think of myself as being empathic, but selectively so, that I can choose. Like when I'm working with people doing remote sessions, which I've had to do a lot because of the corona, I deliberately choose to take on some of the physical sensations of the person I'm working with. So I'll be sitting there evaluating my own shoulder, but basically feeling what they're feeling in their shoulder.
Sure, yeah.
As a way of gaining insight into what to do next and where to go. And it's not like I'll feel their pain. I'm not choosing to feel pain. I'm choosing to feel awareness in certain areas and just heightened sensation. But I choose to do that, and I can choose to turn it off anytime I want.
Yeah.
It's, again, a selectively permeable membrane that I'm in control of what crosses and when. And that's served me really well. So I can tune in. I've really refined like palpation abilities. I can feel things very acutely. I can direct energy flow to, from, whatever, but without taking on their stuff. It's every once in a blue moon, maybe once a year, I feel like I've inadvertently taken on something from someone. It's very seldom. And usually, like the times I've noticed it most is typically if I'm doing kind of trauma work on someone that was related to like pretty intense childhood trauma.
Yeah.
Abuse situations and whatnot. I have trouble keeping that boundary in place with that one subject. I should probably explore why. I mean, I don't have a particularly applicable background myself in that. I didn't have a traumatic childhood or anything, but that's just it might just be because I'm a father to young boys, that, and it tends to be boys that I have more of an issue with in working with those subjects. I'm still effective. I still am able to help people and get the job done, but it exacts a toll on me briefly, but still I can feel it. I can feel that my boundary was not 100%. There was a chink in the armor.
Well, it's pretty hard to remain completely neutral when you're dealing with these kinds of things, honestly. It's very challenging.
It is.
Yeah. Just because we're humans and we have feelings about these kinds of harms. Interesting. Okay. So what do you do if you find yourself?
Things though stem from this. So many physical ailments and complaints that people come in with have roots in kind of previous trauma. Even if it's not a straight cause and effect thing, there's often a link and some crossover between the two to where you can't really fully resolve one without delving into the other. So I end up having to go there, kind of address that side of the coin quite often with people, even if they come in with something that's purely physical.
Totally. Where you are now, are you finding that most people have been through therapy and so are pretty aware of their trauma and pretty in touch with it?
I get a lot of people who are aware of the traumas they've been through and what were traumas. They're just not necessarily aware that they are still traumas.
Yeah. Okay.
I get a lot of people thinking they've graduated.
Yeah, totally.
But they have not. They're still freshmen.
I've had 20 years of, talk therapy on this. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, no, I'm done with this. Or people who think trauma has an expiration date.
Right.
Well, that was 20 years ago.
Totally. Right. Okay.
And I'm not going to sit there and argue with them. I'm going to show them. That's a handy way to introduce muscle testing in. I don't use it as part of my correction with the emotional work, but sometimes it's part of the mind expanding process. So, you've got this knee pain. Okay, so let's test some muscles here. And now, I go through that trauma list I've gathered from them, when I first started working with them. Okay, well, think about that time you got the surgery and your mother wouldn't be in the room with you and you felt abandoned. And boom, that quad shuts down, that hamstring shuts down.
Right.
And I'm showing them the way this thing is related on some level to that thing. It doesn't shut off every muscle in your body, just the ones in that knee. Isn't that interesting? And all of a sudden they become a lot more open,
right,
to kind of going down that avenue when I've shown them in a slightly more left brain kind of way.
Yep.
That A is connected to B. You know, I worked on a wrestler who had a shoulder dislocation, and, you know, worked it pretty well. Everything felt pretty good, felt stable. And he was a younger kid, so he was pretty much open to whatever I told him to be open to.
Yeah.
You know, he was open to suggestion, but I could tell he wouldn't have assumed that there could be any emotional element to it, the collegiate wrestler. And I just said, now I just want you to remember the injury when it got dislocated. Boom, rotator cuff shuts down. We clear that. Okay, now think about the guy you were wrestling. Shuts down again. Think about the singlet you were wearing. Shuts down. Think about the smell in the wrestling room. Shuts down. We kept clearing all these facets of the problem that were triggers for him, particularly relevant triggers being that he was still actively wrestling.
Yeah.
I'm like, every time you go in that room, you're losing your shoulder stability that you had before you walked in. You know, so that was it was a very useful way of just kind of demonstrating for him where I don't like people having to just take my word for stuff.
Right.
I like ways of showing them, so I'm not having to constantly be the salesman trying to convince them of what they need. I like just demonstrating it for them.
Yeah.
And if they still don't believe it, cool, they're not ready for it. I'll work with what they are ready for. I'm a big believer in meeting people where they're at. I know some people like to throw it out there right up front. We're going to be delving into this, and put it in their, you know, questionnaires. And for me, that's kind of the opposite of meeting people where they're at, because you're basically immediately deterring people who aren't there yet.
Right. Yeah.
So it's a way of just not ever having to meet people where they're at, because you're making sure they're there before they come to you. That doesn't interest me. So I have plenty of people where I know the problem goes a lot deeper, but I'm still going to just do the ART. I'm still going to just, you know, address some compensation patterns, and we'll wait until they're ready. I had one client who had just mind-blowing amounts of childhood trauma, like just so much. Pretty much every bad thing that could happen to a person happened to her when she was a kid. But she was coming in for like knee and hip stuff, and I worked with her for months before we even started talking about going into the emotional, and where I would just give her little teasers and just introducing the idea. And it was very much piecemeal, because she would have bolted if I just threw it out there right off the bat. The trauma was just so deep. And then after about a year of working with her for various physical things, I got her to create a trauma list for me. But she wouldn't show it to me. She just had it. And then it was more time to get her to where she would actually show me the trauma list. But then I couldn't keep it. I had to give it back to her. Like, it was this whole kind of baby steps process.
She had to build a sense of trust
of getting her body to not only trust, but actually to feel ready to go there. And then we were able to start working into some things that way. But it was very much, I mean, if I had put that in on my website, hey, we're going to be going here, we're going to talk about childhood trauma and everything, like, bye-bye. She never would have come in, and I never would have had the opportunity to help her.
Yeah, that's lovely.
So I know a lot of people like to, because they enjoy working here, they kind of send away anyone who's not there. And I don't agree with that. I have strong feelings about that.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Yeah, I know no one works in the middle a lot too.
Yeah, I work the whole spectrum. I have people I work on solely for emotional things. Like, maybe they superficially come to me for a physical symptom, but pretty much immediately we're delving into something else, because that's what comes up kind of organically through the process.
Right.
But they see it, they experienced it, so there's no convincing I have to do. It's clear to them what we have to do and why we have to do it, and they're on board. I don't have to be a salesman trying to sell them on the idea. Other people, we're just purely physical, and that's good.
Yeah.
And that works for them, and we're happy to do it.
Do you have a way that that you teach clients to check their chakras to know if they're in balance or not?
I do not.
No?
Half the people I'm doing chakra work on don't know I'm doing chakra work.
Okay.
Again, it's about meeting people where they're at. So there are a lot of people who have no idea what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like they think I'm doing this, but I'm actually doing that.
Okay.
Because it's internal to me. I have an agreement energetically with their body to let me go certain places. It doesn't necessarily have to be made conscious.
Okay.
Sometimes it does. I had one lady, I was working here. I told her I was working down here. And after a few corrections, she just says, just so you know, I'm really open to this energy stuff. So if you ever want to tell me what you're really doing, feel free. And we both had I'm like, busted. She totally called me out on it, and we had a good laugh over it. And I was like, all right, here's what I'm doing. And I explained kind of the whole kit and caboodle. And that was fun. She like totally nailed me on it. It was great.
Yeah, it's very cool. How do you check? I mean, do you have a way to check yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Is
I
it
do a
easy?
lot of work on myself pretty effectively. It's one of those things, I don't know. It's one of those things, every time I do it, it's like, why have I not been doing more of this? Because it always works. Like I respond to my work very well.
Yeah.
My body likes being worked on by me.
Yeah.
So, and it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's, you know, I got a cold, I got a pain, I got a stress, whatever it is. Like I respond really quickly to it, and I'm able to work very effectively on myself. But then I'll go a month or two without doing it because I completely just skipped my mind to do that. Then it's like, why have I not been doing this?
Yeah. Is it easy to demonstrate? I mean, could we do that in the next few minutes, or are we running out of time?
That would be a lengthy process.
Oh, okay. Never mind then.
The physical, what I'm physically doing is not much of a spectator sport. So much of it is internal, and I can choose to verbalize it, but I'm going through lengthy menus in my head to kind of deductively work my way down to what challenge am I going to do when, you know, the thing that I've identified, where does this trace back to in their history? Now what do I need? What do I need to do about it once I've stimulated it? You know, all these things that I'm going through that I can do in seconds, but to verbalize would take me a very long time. I would basically have to teach the whole system to do it.
Yeah, no, let's not do that.
Yeah.
People need to pay for that.
Well, even if I was all about giving it away, there's just not enough time. Every one thing I said would require me to explain 4 more things. It would just end up mushrooming.
Got it. Well, I look forward to when you do begin to teach it. Yeah. I think it's very important for people to be able to learn how to work intuitively, and people are dying to learn how. They want to. They want to learn to trust.
And there are some things, because it's not much of a spectator sport, it's so internal, there are some things that I add into it just to make it a little easier to follow that aren't actually really necessary.
Okay.
Like sometimes I'll throw in muscle tests, even when I already know what's going to happen.
Okay.
And I don't need to do it. I just want them to see it. I want them to experience it. I want to get them involved. You know, certain clearings I'm doing on chakras and stuff, I don't need to physically do anything. I can do that through intention alone.
Yeah.
But then as far as they're concerned, I'm just standing there staring at them like a creepy weirdo.
Yeah.
You know, so I add stuff in just to make it a little more easily digestible for people, to make it seem a little more mechanical than it really is.
And also, I think people's bodies like being touched anyway. So I'm doing
very
similar
much.
work.
And I do try to make it feel like a body work session.
Yeah.
Even if that's not really the level I am intending to be working on.
Yeah.
So there are sometimes I'll be doing soft tissue work that they don't need, but I just feel it will kind of help them get into it.
Totally.
just helps them accept everything else. So give them a little what they want so that they can receive what they need.
Yeah, I get that a lot. Okay. Thank you. Well, how can people connect with you if they want to receive some of your distance work and then
Right through my website.
Okay.
One thing this is a kind of a lesson learned with this whole COVID issue. I had been doing online sessions for a long time, and I just called them online sessions.
Yeah.
And very few people would schedule them. And I realized why only after talking with people and trying to convince them to try these remote sessions, is that they were trying to imagine me doing exactly what I do in my office remotely. And because the name online session suggested it's just a normal session, but online, which it's not, because obviously I have to work differently if there's going to be no physical contact. So I renamed them remote healing sessions. And now people are much more open to them.
That's cool.
Because just positioning it as a separate thing, not just an online version of the same thing, but a separate approach and a separate process.
Right.
And people are a lot more open to it just from renaming it. So that was a long way of explaining that. Basically go on my website and schedule a remote healing session.
Cool. Okay. All right. That's what I will link to in the YouTube comments.
But it's been fun because I've been kind of connecting with people from all over who aren't, who haven't been to me physically or never could because they're so far away.
Yeah.
So I've been doing sessions with people in Israel and Canada and kind of all over the place. It's been really fun.
That's so cool. Yeah.
So meeting people I otherwise wouldn't have gotten to meet.
Yeah. It's one of the perks of this time.
Yeah. And doing so much of the remote work has allowed me to really kind of refine it and dial it in as well.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Well, thank you for your time today. This was a really fun chat.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited to see you put it out.
Yeah, well, I'm sure I'll be asking you guys if you want to host me.
Absolutely.
Out in Denver whenever I'm going to release the system out into the wild.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, we're here in this building for the next 2.5 years, so we'll be here.
Yeah. Are you going somewhere else after that?
I don't know. I don't know. The numerous mechanical issues in this building, so who knows? Knock on wood, we're still good, but yes. All right. Well, thank you very much.
It was good to talk with you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here, and I will speak to you soon.
All righty. Bye-bye.
Bye.